a lot of people have been asking me about Arcane Mage, all right? So if you guys want to know a little bit about Arcane Mage, this isn't going to be the most in-depth guide, okay? It's going to be like a quick and dirty. You want to get started. I'm not going to go over every little detail, but I will go over kind of like the basic rotation and what you're aiming to do. So these are the talents that I'm playing right now. I don't really mess around with my talents that much, to be honest with you. This is kind of just like what I run, and this is what you can run. If you want, you could play Ice Flows, so you can blink out of stuns. Another thing you can do, which is kind of fun, and I think mages will start experimenting with this more. I know Seavark really enjoys this, and it could be fun in Battlegrounds, where instead of playing Dragon's Breath, you play Supernova, and you switch to Gravity Lapse if you are playing Sun Fury. So if you want to mess around with that, you can do that too. Gravity Lapse basically suspends an opponent in the air. It could be kind of fun. You can like throw a warrior in the air. He's stuck there and you can burst him. For me personally, it still seems like Dragon's Breath has been more useful, so I kind of just run with that. A few things have changed with Arcane this expansion. One of the main things you have to consider and think about is Magi's Spark. So we'll read that. Your Touch of the Magi now also conjures a spark, causing the damage from your next Arcane Barrage, Blast, and Missiles to echo for 100% of their damage. So basically, when you use your Touch of the Magi's, you get an Empowered Missiles, Blast, and Barrage, which is something you want to consider, because that is your major burst. Touch of the Magi is how you kill people, basically. Like, if you want to kill people, Touch of the Magi is how you're going to do it. The other thing that's really cool about Arcane is high voltage. So your Arcane Missiles will actually give you charges now, and they used to not do that. So if you stack up a bunch of missile procs, we'll do that if we get lucky. We got 2. We can get 3. Maybe 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 we can get 3. There we go. So, bunch of missile procs. I'm going to dump my charges. I'm getting orb procs. Okay. Now, when you use your missiles, you can see that my charges are going to slowly fill up, which is very convenient because Arcane is all around kind of playing around those max charges. Now, I am going to suggest that you use the WeakAuras. There's a mage named Knight, and he made a WeakAura that it's a bunch of different power auras, and I think it's the most important thing if you want to like know what's going on. There's all listed in my Discord, but let me show you. These are very, very important. So there's 2 I think that I'm using. One is Clear Casting and Nether Precision, which I'll explain. And the other is Sun Fury. So yeah, it shows a few different things here. Okay, so let me explain what these are, what my power auras are. So as I'm casting spells, you guys are going to notice a few things. The first thing is when I get a Clear Casting proc. Now, normally with Clear Casting, okay, and that's what allows you to use Arcane Missiles, it shows up on both sides. So this WeakAura changes that. So instead of it showing up on both sides, what it does is when you use your Arcane Missiles, it shows you your Nether Precision. Now, Nether Precision is a very important buff, which you get after Clear Casting, that gives you 20% damage on Arcane Barrage and Arcane Blast. Okay? So now I'm tracking my Nether Precision and I'm tracking my Clear Casting. All right, let's keep attacking. And I'll show you as more stuff pops up, what it looks like as we get some procs, hopefully. All right, so this is when I have Aether Attunement. I think it disappeared, but anyways, when my Arcane Missiles turns green, that means I have Aether Attunement, which means it's gonna cleave. It means my Arcane Missiles now cleave everybody. I need to explain these power wars, so it's a lot easier for you guys to understand what's going on. This top buff I have, oh, we get that again. This top buff I have is another thing from Sun Fury. Let me see what it's called. It's called Glorious Incandescence. So when I have that top buff, that basically means my Arcane Barrage is going to refill my charges. So if I dump my charges, you can see I have full charges again. Okay? So that's basically, those are the power wars, okay? And as they come up, I can try to explain them again. But your basic rotation on Arcane is essentially just getting Clear Casting procs, okay? Getting Clear Casting procs, using your missiles, and then once you do this, you want to be blasting to use a Nether Precision, and then blasting into a Barrage to clip that second Nether Precision. So that's the basics of it, okay? where you're basically just getting clear casting procs, okay? You're using your clear casting procs, and then you're using your 20% damage bonus to Arcane Blast and Barrage with a blast into Blast Barrage. Now you can see I have my cleave missiles, okay? So my cleave missiles are gonna cleave, and that basically is gonna guarantee that you have like full charges. Okay, now that's kind of the basic rotation that you're gonna be aiming to go for. Now you're probably wondering, how do I burst and how do I one-shot people? Because that's the most important thing about Arcane Mage. That's the most important thing about Arcane Mage is how do you one-shot? Okay, so the way you one-shot is the most convenient way to one-shot. There's a little bit more to it, but the basics of one-shotting are basically you're going to channel out an evocation. Okay, you're going to evo, because when you evo, you get a clear casting proc. And not only do you get a clear casting proc, you also get Siphon Power, which gives you a bunch of intellect. And then you're going to hopefully have full charges. You don't really care about this clear casting proc. Have full charges so you can get Empowered Barrage. And you're basically going to snap together an Arcane Surge into a Barrage into a Touch of the Magi. Okay? So you're going to Surge, Arcane Barrage, so it's in the air, Touch of the Magi. That way you're going to get a fatty. Ideally, you're going to have your Nether Precision proc, but I'm just having to explain it, so it looks a little bit slower. I'll do it all in fast motion, but now that I have 4 charges, I've used my Evocation, I'm going to use my Arcane Surge, I'm going to Barrage, I'm going to Touch of the Magi, and then you can just start dumping your missiles. You just start dumping your missiles, casting Arcane Blast, Arcane Barrage, just spamming out more, spamming out more, spamming out more. And then once this green aura, by the way, is when my Phoenix expires. That's when I can spam Barrage. So if you're wondering what that is, that's a buff you get when your Phoenix expires called Memory of Alar, where you get a buff called, I think, Arcane Soul, which makes it so Arcane Barrage grants clear casting. It generates 4 arcane charges. Okay? So I'm sure a lot of this is confusing to you guys, but I'm just going to do the rotation and explain it now. Now that I've kind of explained the basics, we can just attack. Okay, so that's what I'm going to do. We're just going to attack stuff. Okay, so I'm going to get full charges. That's one of the ways you get charges, by the way. The best way to get charges is, first of all, your Arcane Missiles if you have the procs, your Arcane Orbs if you have the procs, and then if you really need to, you can just use your Touch of the Magi to burst. So I'm just going to be spamming out damage, spamming out damage, spamming out damage. A lot of the time you're actually not sitting here like this, just casting Arcane Blast. You can Barrage. I normally don't Barrage until I get a clear casting proc, but if I run out of mana I need to. Okay, we have a missile proc, so we can use our missiles. Now we're going to cast an Arcane Blast into an Arcane Barrage to clip that. I'm going to go for an Arcane Missiles to get the buff again. Arcane Blast, Arcane Barrage to clip the buff. Okay, we're going to spam out some Arcane Missiles. For full charges again, we can Arcane Blast into an Arcane Barrage. Okay, I kind of want a one-shot here, so what I'm going to do is Evo. I'm going to dump my missiles to get my Aether Attunement, or Nether Precision. Now I'm going to Arcane Surge into a Barrage, into a Touch of the Magi. Spam out missiles, spam out missiles, spam out missiles. An Arcane Blast and a Palm Blast. That's going to blow up my thingamabob. Once again, I'm going to go for missiles, try to get full charges. We're going to Blast, Blast Barrage. And now we can just spam Barrage over and over with our buff from our Phoenix expiring. Once that green buff is up, remember, you can just spam it out. Cleave my missiles. We're going to Arcane Blast into Arcane Barrage. Does that make sense? So the thing that I like about Arcane is you can do lots of creative things. Like all these things that I said, you don't necessarily have to do them exactly like this, but yeah. Super complex, geez. It is, yeah, but it's really fun. So it's really, really fun. But that's kind of like the fundamentals for Arcane. Now you can do other things, like if you want to do just like a quick burst window, for example. Sometimes if you have no procs whatsoever, for example, like let's say I have no procs at all and nothing's going on. Sometimes I'll literally just press Touch of the Magi. I'll just press Touch of the Magi. I got a clear casting proc from it. Great. Now I can just Arcane Missiles. I can Arcane Blast again, and now it's gonna boom, explode my Touch of the Magi. Boom. That's a big damn. You can also, if you're in groups in Cleave, you can just spam out You know, your arcane orbs. Like if you have like DKs training you and stuff like that, you can actually use arcane explosion if you want to build charges. Then you can just cleave your barrages. You know, wait for orbs again. Another thing that's really important for arcane is obviously shifting power, because your burst is so cooldown reliant. You know, being able to shifting power after your burst window is done is really, really good. What else did I want to talk about? Yeah, so your major offensive cooldowns are Evocation, your major offensive cooldowns Arcane Surge, your Touch of the Magi. Oh, another thing I want to talk about is you actually build up a lot of momentum on Arcane. So there's a few things that I think are important to remember. Just hopping around. Sometimes you'll see mages just hop around and like spam barrage like this. There's a reason for that. So as you're hopping around and spamming barrage, you're actually building up buffs. So this is something that's important to mention. So just jumping around and spamming your barrage, you're building up 2 buffs. The first one is Mana Cascade, which is a Sun Fury buff. Casting Arcane Blast or Arcane Barrage grants you 1% haste, stacking up to 10 times. The other one is Arcane Tempo, which is another buff you get from spamming Barrage in the general tree that also gives you haste. So by just jumping around and spamming Barrage like that, not only are you snaring people with Chrono Shift, you're sprinting yourself, and you're building up these crazy haste buffs, and you're also building up your Spellfire Spheres, which is important. So for Sun Fury, that's how you're going to burst even harder. Okay, so now that I have my haste buffs basically completely maxed out, we can do like a Giga Burst. I'm going to dump 1 missile proc, get my Nether Precision. I'm in a Evo. This is going to be a banger. Okay, these are my big procs. And we're going to surge into a Barrage Touch. Huge missiles, 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 missiles. And then you can do like a Blast Barrage if you want. Into more missiles. You can also just like, a lot of the times you can just spam out orbs. You have to keep in mind though, there's another thing that I should probably mention. Your barrages have some different modifiers on them. One of them is Arcane Harmony. So first of all, if they're under 35% health, it's going to get modified. The second one is Arcane Harmony, which you get after using missiles. So after you use a missiles, your barrage is going to be bigger. And then also the arcane charges and also Nether Precision. So there's a ton of modifiers on your arcane barrage. So there's a huge difference. There's a huge difference between just pressing barrage with 4 charges. That's not really going to do that much damage. You're going to do a lot more damage if, first of all, they're under health and you've used a clear casting proc. So if you use a clear casting proc, you're going to be building up your Arcane Harmony. Then you want 4 charges, and you also now have Nether Precision, which is another 20%, which is really good. So that's when you get the fatty barrages. All right. Now, I know this is probably a lot of information to take in, but I'm happy to answer any questions. This is kind of just a quick rotational guide. If you guys want to know more, I can link some more detailed like PvE guides that will really tell you all the little buffs and debuffs that you should be tracking. But this is a pretty good place to start. And like I said, I highly recommend the WeakAura because it's going to give you a lot of information that is normally not tracked. So yeah. And someone said, can you also give the WeakAura for charges above their head? So if you guys want that, all you have to do is type resource in settings, and you want this setting right here. So you have to turn this on, then this, and then you'll track your charges above their head, which is very useful. So yeah, that's just a really, really quick Spellslinger Arcane, or sorry, Sunfury Arcane. Spellslinger really doesn't change the rotation that much. In my opinion, it changes it maybe a little bit, but the fundamentals are still the same on how you deal damage. But yeah, just practice it, have fun with it. Arcane's sick, and once you get it down, you're gonna be doing big damn.